Welcome and thank you for clicking on my video today. We're going to be first talking about something that I see in front of me that could be the worst situation for 2024, the worst situation for the United States economy. And we're going to go over that in a second, but today we are going to also get into some technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Nvidia, AMD, and Meta today. And we have those daily ranges for you. But first, I just wanted to get into this topic. Let's get into it. So I just wanted to point out that TLT has some 2-hour divergences down here. We actually see those divergences all the way across this here, down here, and we're looking for this to turn up, and we're seeing that down on the RSI at multiple point divergence at the same time. So this is very worrisome because if TLT is actually going to make an upward move here and break out of this, right, start to curl some stuff up, and that's where I wanted to talk about the daily. The daily actually showing it has potential divergences as well. We're seeing the RSI start to coil up, right? We see these bumps, but it's starting to look almost like its own little triangle down in here that looks like it's about to break one way or the other. So we want to pay attention to this because if TLT is going up, what could be the recipe for disaster here? Well, what if the stuff overseas, right, over in the Middle East, what if we actually see that escalate even further and we're supposed to supposedly get attacked, right? And we're supposed to see some kind of retaliation against Israel soon. So we'll see if that starts to escalate. What if World War III actually does begin and that causes the TLT to skyrocket up, bringing those yields down? Therefore, we would need to borrow more and more money because we're going into a war, which could mean if this actually goes up, that would bring those yields down. Now, what are we experiencing right now? Inflation. Inflation is still going up. Yes, it has tapered off, right? It's tapered off, but it's still going up at a rate that we are not comfortable with. They are not at their 2% yet. It's really hard to say whether the market is actually going to react good or bad to this, because if we actually experience this and we experience hyperinflation while TLT goes dramatically to the upside with some kind of war, then we could actually see stocks and things inflate. So we'll have to pay attention to that. We're going to trade the price action, and that's why we're going to go into the SPY right now. But I wanted you to be aware of this and the potential for how bad things could get if we actually see a rapid movement up in the TLT at this moment. Something to keep in your mind. That is something that you need to have in your mindset while you are trading when you're seeing certain setups. Right now, we're looking at some kind of potential triple top. As of right now, still a negative trend, right? So if you are here live, which we go live every single morning, make sure to like and subscribe so you can join us every single morning because we look through a ton of stocks. It's a lot of fun. I just wanted to point out the stuff happening here, but first I should probably give you those ranges. Let's give you those updated daily ranges. So tomorrow we have 522.16 to the upside and we have 515.16 to the downside. So even though we're ending the day in pretty much the same point where we opened, we're noticing that this actually tightened up a little bit. So we could get another nothing day, or maybe tomorrow is going to be more telling and we're going to see a move up or down to trap someone right before a big event like CPI. And we have to keep CPI in mind for Wednesday. We're going to be live for that, and we may even go live for the FOMC minutes if we can get a bunch of likes on this video. So like this video if you want me to go live for the FOMC minutes so we can watch that together and see what is produced there. But I just wanted to point out, we mentioned if this curls up on the 2-hour, we can see that positivity. But if you've taken the course and you know all this stuff, that's all down in the description, you can notice we're not in positive territory. The positive negative territory is very, very important. We go over it in the course a lot, but you'll notice we're not able to go up just yet. Maybe we need to reach down and find some buyers before that happens. So we know how we would go up from here. If we see that move up, maybe we see a dip down, we get that left head and right shoulder. But if we break down first tomorrow, I'm really going to pay attention to these daily expected moves. If the 30-minute is able to curl down, unless it's a geopolitical, some kind of black swan event, that attack actually happens, right? It's supposed to happen in the next couple days. So what I want to pay attention to is some downside here. I know if it goes up, that's the most likely structure I'm going to see. But if it curls down on this 30-minute, where would it go into? Negative territory. So we could be testing this low. Okay, so if we come down and test that low and then we see that, close, 68% chance to close back in these red lines, right? So if we come out of that early on and we bounce up, what if we create some kind of 30-minute divergence down here, giving us a little hint of what is to come with CPI according to this right here? And that would actually make a lot of sense. Actually, CPI doing what TLT is doing right now, TLT looks like the momentum's dying out. They're just looking for some good news for a solid bounce. So if you're trading based on the momentum, TLT looks like it's about to bounce, which means those yields are actually about to come down. Okay, so if those yields actually come down, what could that mean? That could mean people see rate cuts. Maybe the CPI comes out good and then we see this market start to head up one more time. So what we're paying attention to here is tomorrow live, we're going to pay attention to any kind of divergence. If we can form that to the bear side, bull side, if we get excited to the upside, well, we might want to look out for some 15 minutes or something like that. I think if we end up in this area, it would be very interesting if CPI came in kind of at expected. We see that turn down, but by the end of the week, we're turning back up, maybe with the FOMC minutes, PPI or whatever, because we have so much data. This market might be a dud for one more day, but I can guarantee you that Wednesday through Friday, this market is going to really start to move back and forth. The Qs, right? We were paying attention to the same thing. We were paying attention to that 2-hour crossing. We got that 2-hour to cross, but you'll notice something. It didn't get that strength to get us into positive territory. We're not there yet. Okay, so until we actually get positive territory, that's when the positive move will actually begin. If you just look back just a little bit in this wonky price action here, well, we did get one big move up. Hey, we got one big move up here, and then we consolidate, we drop down, we consolidate, and then when does the big move come in? Well, we get into positive territory on this bar here, and boom, we see a big amount of positivity for about a day and a half. Okay, so this right here is more what you're looking for, and if that goes positive around this area, you might see that explosion upward. So we just want to pay attention to that on the 2-hour. Let's give you those ranges as well. So the ranges for the Qs tomorrow, 444.68 to the upside, 436.56 to the downside. So this would tell me we're ending the day pretty similar spot to where we started this morning, but these got a little bit tighter. So we could be in for a nothing day, but we also could be in for some kind of move outside of this range that gives us a little hint by end of day what is going to happen. That's why we're going to pay attention to this live. So to the bear side, I would really pay attention to a 30-minute and then see if this divergence isn't able to get back into positive territory and come back into this zone. If we can come firmly out of this zone, break through this low, you're continuing that negative trend, maybe use this as resistance and you actually head lower. So that's what we'll be paying attention to tomorrow. We'll be talking about it a lot. Here's the thing, maybe we see a reaction from Apple. You're getting a little bit of a difference, okay? There's some stocks that look like they want to bounce that have been beat down for a while. Apple, Tesla, we're going to get into those now. But there's some stocks that don't look like that. They look like they need some kind of correction to go higher. Maybe people reposition into Apple or something like that. But you're noticing here, there's just big divergence all the way down here. And now you're so close to that positive territory. And what are we getting in the nearest price action? Well, we very well might be getting some kind of small divergence here on the MACD, flatness of the RSI down here. So this divergence right here could lead to some kind of bounce. And that's what I want to pay attention to, because if that can go positive, we could end up back in this zone. This zone's been very important multiple times. What if we get into that zone and we see another sell-off? This area here is where I would pay attention if I see an upward move. Now, if there's an entryway to get into this trade, well, I'm going to look for my 30-minute. Am I seeing divergence? Yes, I am. I see divergence from this point to this point to this point. So we have divergence down here in the near price action. If that just curls up, well, that says it wants to curl up tomorrow. Even though the Qs look like they're going to curl down, Apple looks like, hey, if I am able to gain some steam here, I have divergence. I could go positive and flip the trend back to positive, right? So I want to pay attention to Apple. This is one of the ones that look like it's been beat down for a long time, been in a negative trend for a long time, but it has those divergences. This is a point in time where Apple has potential for some kind of bounce. Now, if this wants to just keep going down, that makes total sense. Let's look at the daily scale. Daily momentum is more important at this point, and you're noticing this. Well, it's getting very close to crossing over on this MACD. So that means that I could see some kind of reaction down. We've really just reacted pretty heavily. Then we caught up to the 5. We went and tested the 20. We failed above it, and now we're coming back down below that 5, and we're testing the 20 and the 5 over and over again, and we haven't seen a move to take those back. Now we are pretty tight, so a big move's coming, but if this just crosses down into negative territory, we're most likely seeing lower prices, going to test that 165.69 level, going to maybe even go down a little lower to 162.97. So we'll have to pay attention to this area down here if we see that downside, but you're curling down on the daily, on the MACD in negative territory. Doesn't look very good on the daily side for Apple at this point, but you do have 2-hour divergences, so maybe it's time to be a contrarian. We'll have to see. Now, Tesla seeing a good move up. Now, this one could see that strength. Now you have double bottom in this area as well. You're rejecting the crossing over of that daily MACD, something Apple's trying to do right now. Even though it's testing those lows, you're noticing it's very, very flat in that MACD, but Tesla able to turn around from here, so double bottom in play if you can take out this high. So that's something to pay attention to. Now, if this actually did go up, we want to go into the shorter time frames. Look if this daily MACD does cross down into negative territory. But if we just pull up a 2-hour, you're going to notice it's still negative. It's getting close to the center line. What if that rolls over right now? Okay, so this very well could roll over and continue that negative trend. The only problem is we're noticing we have a ton of divergence down here. We now have a double bottom down here formed. We have a divergence in the near price action right here. So we have a lot of momentum telling us, hey, we kind of want to go the other way. If we get some good news, we're going to go the other way here. So pay attention to Tesla. Something on the 30-minute I just wanted to point out, you even had a divergence down here on the 30-minute. Now that is rolling over as of now. It looks like it wants to roll over. Make sure that goes negative. But the big thing here is, well, if this isn't going to see an upward move, we now have a high. This would maybe be a lower high. Here's your low. Now we go make a lower low. You would kind of confirm with another move past this low, hey, I'm in a negative trend again, which it was able to come out of for a little bit. So it went back into one. Now it seems to be, hey, this is the moment it has to decide. Is it in a negative trend or is it going to continue that positivity for Tesla? Amazon, this is something that's completely different than the two I just showed you. Completely different, right? You're seeing divergences to the upside. So it's like those two stocks are very, very weak. Amazon is very, very strong, right? Amazon's very, very strong, but the price action has gotten wonky all throughout this price action. We've had kind of just momentum dying, but still getting that slow trickling up, that slow buying effect. Because the 2-hour here has actually been able to gain some steam. It's just heading up and up, but on the RSI, those divergences still holding strong. Okay, so and if I zoom out a little bit, you still have divergence across the whole board here. So we need to pay attention to Amazon. This one, it really looks like the momentum is dead. So it kind of is interesting that Apple and Tesla look like, hey, they could catch a bid. The momentum to the downside is dying out. But Amazon's telling you my momentum to the upside is slowly dying out here, and I might not even have anything left. This daily bar does not look the best, right? We're coming up to this area. You're getting a lot of red, green, red, green, red, green on the way up. That just tells you the momentum is weakening. We're outside of the Bollinger. We're well away from the 5. Maybe we want to reconnect with that. I would just pay attention if a lot of these stocks that look like this start to lose that 20-day moving average. Could be very telling for Amazon. NVIDIA is kind of telling you it wants to go lower here, if not to just test this level we've been paying attention to, that 841.46 level. I think you really want a good test of that level. Maybe we do that tomorrow, but I'm just saying this is not very good because you're losing the 20 and the 5 again right now, and you look like you're kind of flagging. So if we look on these shorter time frames, let's just go into a 2-hour first. You're seeing how that still has not rolled up on this MACD. We've been sitting patiently waiting for this to roll up on that MACD. It just hasn't happened yet. And then the other thing is it needs to go positive too, right? It has to go positive as well to see positivity, positive trend, positive price action, right? So we want to pay attention to any upside that could come, but it doesn't look like that's that moment. We're closing below, we're flagging out. So the 30-minute is something I might want to pay attention to here. Well, I'm noticing I have one divergence down there on the RSI and the MACD at the same time, flatness of the RSI. So maybe right now I want to create some kind of divergence in the near term to give us a better point here to get that momentum, gain some buyers, and then we see a divergence very close to positive territory. You really need these to flip positive. Since they are negative, you can just sit here, wait for the MACD to get towards that center line, cross down, boom, it's going to head lower. It's a negative trend, right? It's literally that simple. Now, if you see this start to do that, that tells you there is a moment where the momentum is dying out. If it gets some good news or maybe no news and we're in a bullish trend, it can start to head upward as long as you don't get bad news, right? So if that bad news happens, well, you're going to continue the trend you're in right now. It's a negative trend. More bad news means more negativity for NVIDIA. I don't really see NVIDIA hitting 1,000 this week. I think that is completely off the table at this point. Looking at AMD, I just wanted to point this out. And we're actually going to look at SMCI after this for fun because it hit a point where I was really paying attention to it. I just wanted to bring up, it's been breaking down for a while, and I think we were looking at a 2-hour here, and look at that divergence. Okay, so this is where it's like the price action in a lot of stocks is very interesting and kind of strange, because you have stuff like AMD showing you big divergences, looks like it wants to cross and change the trend to positive, right? Curl up that daily MACD, right? Daily MACD curls up. Maybe we go test that high, we go make a new one. Maybe we set up a lower high in this area. But, you know, if this crosses up, positive territory, good shot to go test this high on the closing there, up here at the highs of the actual bar, not necessarily including the wick there. But if this did see that positivity, we'd get some kind of divergence up in this area. But I'm just pointing out how this is pretty interesting to see multiple different things happening across the board. It's kind of hard for a trade. You just have to, trade an individual name, most likely, is the answer to this. But I just wanted to show you that 2-hour divergence, not necessarily showing my Patreon at this point. I showed Patreon that TLT trade earlier today, so make sure to join that Patreon if you're interested. One thing I'm noticing early on about AMD here, looks like it's flagging out again, and we're in a negative trend, right? We've been negative for quite some time here. We went positive for a brief moment, rolls back down. So 30-minute can still go down. What would that do? Maybe we create some kind of divergence right here. That would make a lot of sense. It would make a lot of sense to go down, grab some buyers at a very important point. Remember, we were talking about this 162 level for a while now. For the past couple weeks, we've been saying, hey, we could start heading down towards 162, and that would make a lot of sense. Well, what if we actually head there? That's where we get an extreme amount of buyers, because guess what? We gapped up from that area last time. We built up a ton of liquidity in that area. We tested that level over and over again. So, and then we see that big breakout. So this would be an area for those buyers to step back in. And I wanted to point that out on AMD. Now, SMCI, I just wanted to note that this actually did break through structure, right? It broke out of this wedge it was forming. We got some direction on that, right? It breaks the wedge, it heads down. That makes total sense. Remember, we've had marked off for a couple weeks now, this 903.11. 903.11 coming in as pretty damn important right now, because guess where we actually went to today? We went and tested that level. We've been paying attention to that level for a little bit, and just noticing that it's actually testing that level, I thought it was very interesting. But you're breaking through structure. So right now you probably want to set up some kind of trend with this high up here, right? We're starting to fall off a little bit, but start some kind of trend with that high up there. See if you can just break through that level. If you're able to break through that level, well, you're most likely curling up this 2-hour in positive territory. We can see that positivity continue, right? And then we can go test that high up here at right around 122.7. So that's what I would pay attention to. Looking at the daily here, this has rolled over. Well, what if it curls up from this point, right? That would make a lot of sense. It would make sense to curl up from this point. It's a very important area there. You can see the gapping around that area. That's why it's so important. And you gapped even over here past that area too. So we know it's an important level. Do we just get some kind of reaction to retest and start to fail again? Very, very likely that could happen. But what if we also see that run up before earnings? So right now you just want to pay attention to a lot of different things. But I thought it was interesting that SMCI actually tested this level. So we want to see if we got a 2-hour, what if we have a 30-minute divergence, anything like that? So you're probably wondering that at this point. You don't. You really don't have anything down here that is telling you from a momentum perspective that this needs to get some kind of bounce, right? We don't have any divergence. We don't have anything like that. So maybe if we get some kind of positive move, maybe we do something like that, get a double bottom. But if you start to lose this level, cut through this low, continuing this negative trend that we've been in for a little bit, you can see further downside, and maybe this is actually going to flush. Now, one thing I wanted to pay attention to here, the daily kind of reacting around that 50-day moving average, but we're closing below all these moving averages, and you actually got the 5 to cross the 20. So if the 5 crosses the 20, you'd say that is a bad sign. It can use those as resistance. So watch out for any downside here as the daily is about to go negative. Meta, this is one that saw that a little bit of a run up, and I was noticing some divergence. We got some good trade setups in this area, right? This is one I've been trading back and forth, took some puts, and now I'm, piling up on those a little bit right now because I'm noticing the 2-hour looks like it wants to cross over. We've seen some significant drops while we're up in this area. I can make money a little quicker there. Now, to say this has to go down isn't necessarily right, because what if we just dip down into this area, gain some buyers in this liquidity, and we see another move forward? So that's what I'm going to pay attention to for Meta. But this is another one where it looks like that momentum is just dying. It is just dying out right now. So I wanted to point out one bullish thing in the nearest price action. The 30-minute is down towards that center line. If that crosses up, we can see that positive move. But do we set up some kind of divergence right before CPI? I would really be watching out for divergences before CPI, because that means in those stocks where you see those, the momentum is dead in those stocks, and those are going to see some pretty big moves down in the shorter time frames, like the 30-minute and the 2-hour. So pay attention to that. I just wanted to show you this, and if I go into a 15-minute, I got divergences all along this area. So there was a trade setup for 15-minute divergences. Is that able to go into a negative trend, right? You see that steep divergence giving you a double top. So was that able to go negative? Yes, but it looks like it may curl up again, right? It's kind of flat. So we want to see if that kind of starts to waterfall, break through this low, then we can say, yeah, we have double top. We're probably going to go into this zone, and then we'll see from there if we we can turn up on some MACDs. Now, going into Microsoft here, one thing I wanted to point out is just wonky price action with the 2-hour, but it is in a positive trend. I wanted to make sure to point that out. Just because this looks like it's going to roll over, you really want to wait for it to roll over. If that happens, I'd say you got a good shot at testing this low, which means you're going to break through that trend. That won't be a good thing for Microsoft, right? This is the one. This has a triple divergence on the daily scale. So that is very, very worrisome from a momentum perspective on the daily scale. So that means days worth of selling could come. And the overall thing I just wanted to point out before that happens is positive trend as of right now. So as of right now, still in a positive trend. We can see that upward move, but does that divergence actually, is that going to be the thing that sends this down? You're going to notice if we made an upward move, we'd maybe create triple divergence on the RSI and a triple divergence on the MACD at the same time, getting you closer to negative territory. So I think that this wedge here is about to break for Microsoft very, very soon in the month of April. And we might be right in saying before the month even started that April, we're probably going to find a top. Now, volatility, we were talking about this live, the 2-hour crossing down into down on the MACD. Okay, so what that told me was, hey, we can probably see a positive move. This is more people taking calls, the fear getting sucked out of the market. But we want to be aware if this 30-minute curls up. You'll notice it's kind of doing, it's just trickling over. It's not necessarily pushing down like rapidly. We would really want to see this back off. But you'll notice the last time we had this type of behavior, well, we saw a break to the upside and went into positive territory. So be aware that we can go positive with this still on the 30-minute. And I just wanted to point out volatility can come back in. I'm not leaning towards it coming back in right away. I think we still might see that upward price action before it happens. But I just wanted to point out we're still above the 200. We're still above the 50, and the 50 is pointing more and more up. So watch out for that crash signal when the 50 crosses the 200. That's a crash signal, right? But if this actually, came down and retested and then started to pop off, that would make a lot of sense. So make sure to tune in live with us every single morning, and make sure to do that this week. Make sure you're subscribed and have notifications on, because we have some very important data when it comes to Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week. So the main takeaway here is we're seeing some weird things across the board. We're seeing Apple and Tesla look like they need to catch a bid, while Amazon and Meta look like the momentum is completely dying out. So that is something interesting going into some big events this whole week. We have big events Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with data drops. We have, potential wars starting and things like that. It's just a crazy, crazy time. It might be a time to say, hey, maybe I just want to sit on my hands for a little bit just to see how this plays out and then trade in a month or two. I wouldn't, hold it against anyone for thinking that, because if you look at TLT, I just told you that's probably the worst case that could happen. We actually need to create more debt in order to pay for some kind of war, and then that causes hyperinflation, and then it costs you $20 for a Big Mac. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Liking, subscribing. If you want to learn about this stuff, there's a link down in the description for my course. It is very, very good. Tell you about some indicators and give you a bear market strategy for when volatility pops off. And the other thing I'd like to say, thank you for joining my Patreon, right? Patreon, we're doing some good work over there, getting those weekly ranges for those individual stocks, and we would love to have you over there. But as always, just thank you so much for liking and subscribing. You guys are fantastic. I'll see you tomorrow morning live. Good luck on your trading tomorrow, and I hope you have a good night. Peace.